Hello aspirants, good evening. Welcome to PDF for Exams YouTube channel. This is day 43. We are learning environment and this video is second part of recent developments. We have discussed about few recent developments in last video like Namami Gange project and few projects which were responsible for protecting our forest. So this video would be same kind of video which will be dealing with protection of our environment in certain ways. Okay, so let's start the video and see what are the topics that have to be covered in this video. So the very first topic that is to be covered in this video is Yamuna Action Plan. So as we discussed about the Ganga Action Plan or the Namami Gange project was all about protecting our river Ganga from the pollutants which were discharged by residential activities along with the industrial waste. Okay, so similarly there are lots of problems with Yamuna River also. Yamuna River is one of the major rivers in India and it is the tributary to river Ganga, which is the largest India's river. What do we mean by tributary? Tributary means like we have a long flowing river. When certain river joins the bigger river, that would be called as tributary. So for example, over here this river is river Ganga and Yamuna is coming from the other way, and when it joins river Ganga it would be called as tributary of river Ganga. Why Yamuna is called tributary of river Ganga? Because river Ganga is larger than compared to Yamuna. If Yamuna would be larger than Ganga, then Ganga river would be called as tributary of Yamuna river. Fine. And apart from this, river Yamuna is also becoming very vulnerable. Quality of the water is declining day by day, and this is just because of human activities, and along with that industrial waste are being deposited in this river, and especially in near the stretch of Delhi and Agra. It has become almost near to an open sewer. Sewer is the place where or you can say it's the drainage system where all kind of residential and industrial waste are dumped. So Yamuna River is just an equivalent to open sewer near this Delhi to Agra stretch. Okay. And again Yamuna River is very important because it is responsible for many of the places there irrigation activities. Somewhere it is used for drinking purposes, and all along its water is being used for several purposes, and along with that huge biodiversity exists in river Yamuna. Fine. So because of this, to protect river Yamuna from these effluents, Yamuna Action Plan phase 1 or plan 1 and plan 2 has been launched. So let's study about this plan 1 and plan 2. So what happened in 1977 and 1978? CPCB, that is Central Pollution Control Board. This is an central body or organization that was responsible for controlling the environmental pollution in India. So this board studied the pollution of Yamuna River. Yamuna River length is around 1200 kilometer. So along with the course of the river, the pollution level was studied, and this organization examined the topography of the drainage basin. What do we mean by topography? Topography we have studied in geography, that is the structure of the land. So over here what would be the land? The river basin along which the river flow would be called as topography of river basin or river Yamuna. So CPCB, that is Central Pollution Control Board, studied the topography of drainage basin, base flow, population, land use pattern, agriculture practices, and it estimated that there is huge pollution load from the activity in the basin. Okay, and apart from that, it also indicated that the major cause of pollution is discharge of domestic wastewater, not the industrial wastewater, because most of the industrial wastewater, the residential, or you can say the domestic wastewater is being discharged into river Yamuna, and it is about 2/3 of the pollutant load. So it's very huge. You can say only 1/3 part of pollution is from industries, and remaining the 2/3 part of pollution is from the domestic wastewater. Okay, so Government of India after this report decided to take or improve the water quality of Yamuna River, and it started or initiated the plan Yamuna Action Plan. Okay, and this Yamuna Action Plan was not an individual project, it was under the mega project of Ganga Action Plan phase 2. Okay, so there was Ganga Action Plan, or you can say Ganga Action Plan was there for protection of the river quality or improving the quality of the river in Ganga, and under that mega project, mega means it was very huge project, lots of funds were involved in that project, and all the state and central governments were active in that program. Along with, so under that program Yamuna Action Plan was started. Fine. So, and for this Yamuna Action Plan, government of Japan, it provided loan for India. And how much loan was given to India? Loan was amount, I guess it was written somewhere over here, just a minute, it's gone. It's not mentioned here, but it was almost 600 to 700 crore rupees were given from Japan for this Yamuna Action Plan. Okay, now Yamuna Action Plan, it was launched in 1993, and since it was launched initially, it was called as Yamuna Action Phase or Yamuna Action Plan Phase 1, and later on Phase 2 and Phase 3 were also developed. So let's see what were the problems of Yamuna Action Plan Phase 1, and because of that or those limitation, Yamuna Action Plan Phase 2 was launched. Okay, so there was the STP capacity. What is this STP? STP means sewage treatment plant, sorry. So sewage treatment plant which was created, it remained unutilized. That means sewage treatment plant was created for industries and domestic waste, so it could not be utilized properly. Only 25 to 45% was used, apart and remaining part was not used. So this was one of the biggest limitation of Yamuna Action Plan Phase 1. And the strategies which were given in Yamuna Action Plan did not harness the result of non-point sources. What do we mean non-point sources? See, there are certain sources of waste, like we have some point sources. Point source means we know exactly from where the waste is coming. Apart from this, there are a few non-point sources. That means we don't know exactly from where the source is coming or the pollution source is there. So it was not able to address this non-point source. Okay, and this constraint to maximize the operational frequency of system due to combination factors related to skill, finance. So there was another problem like skill, finance, management system, power cuts and upstream sewage infrastructure. These was also problem in Phase 1. Okay, so because of this, subsequently Yamuna Action Plan Phase 2 was launched in 2004, and it got a loan sanction of rupees 647 crores. Okay, and again later on this project was completed in 2008, and after this the special attention was given to this 22-kilometer stretch of Yamuna in Delhi. Why? Because it was converted to almost an open sewer in near Yamuna and Delhi and Agra stretch. That's why special attention was given to this part. Okay, later on what happened? The plan expanded means the capacity of the treatment of water has to be improved, because only Delhi and Agra was not the issue. Yamuna river along its 1200 kilometer stretch, it had lots of pollutants in it, so it has to be taken care. And later on Yamuna Action Plan Phase 3 was launched under the ministry, and it was approved on December 2011, and a loan of rupees 1656, that means 1656 crore were given from Japan again, which was from an Japan International Cooperation Agency. Okay, so that's all for Yamuna Action Plan. Apart from this, NGT, that is National Green Tribunal of India, has given some rules and regulation, or you can say some given some policies to India, or some orders were given from this NGT to regarding this Yamuna. What were those? It has given direction like taking up the cleaning of Yamuna river, Mali se Nirmal Yamuna Revitalization Plan 2017. Okay, and apart from this, it has also given special attention were given from the people who were using this river water, and special provision were made that some kind of funds or tax could have to be paid from the domestic or the people which were along with that, and that tax would be equal to the property tax or water tax, whatever was equal. Okay, so this had to be paid by the local people, and it has to be collected from the help of municipal. And special attention was given to the industrial pollutions also, so that they could reduce the pollutant which were being discharged into the Yamuna river. And we talk about the way forward in future, what can we do? So effective, that is proper coordination between states and government agency would be required. Why this coordination is required? This coordination is required again and again, because since we know the river, it doesn't flow only in one state, it flows through several states, and all states, they can function properly in coordination. Central government is involved, and because of this, the function of cleaning the rivers could be done properly. This coordination is very necessary. Okay, and the irrigation, the reduced quantity of water which were draws from river from irrigation, this has also been improved using like sprinklers or drip method. So there were certain methods of irrigation. Generally what happened, people used to irrigate the land just by using huge pipes, so that led to waste of lots of water, or you can say lots of water resources. To protect or to save water, drip irrigation kind of method was used, so that water could be used efficiently. Okay, and new construction of barrages could be a possible solution in improving the quality of water. And the landfill in Delhi, it has to be removed near the river. That means near the river, the waste could not be dumped. Okay, so that's all about the Yamuna Action Plan. Next is National Water Mission. So this National Water Mission is all about protecting the water which are used for drinking and irrigation and our daily use purposes. what is happening, our water level, that is whether it is underground water level or you can say the river water or whatever fresh water is being used by public, it has been degrading. The quality of that water has been degrading, and the amount has been also reducing day by day. So for that very purpose, National Water Mission was launched by National Action Plan on Climate Change. Okay. So this National Action Plan on Climate Change, it launched a National Water Body Mission, or you can say National Water Mission, in order to just to conserve water, minimize wastage and ensure more equitable distribution both across the within cities. What happens, somewhere the distribution of fresh water is not equal, although the requirement is different. Like in cities the water requirement, and if we compare the requirement of water in cities and villages or from cities to city, it differ. So this water distribution could be equitable or it could be done properly. For that very purpose, this National Water Mission was launched. Okay, and again, as I said, there is considerable share of water needs urban areas are met through recycling of wastewater in our households. For example, in your household, for example, if you are using water for cleaning your teeth, that could be restored for using in your toilet. So in this way, recycling of water would be done so that we could save lots of water. Okay, and there has been shortage of water both below and above the ground. So rainwater harvesting was one of the good methods, so in order to save the water, and rainwater harvesting was coupled with equitable and efficient management structure to save water and use it efficiently. Okay, and there has been lots of plans, or you can say lots of steps has been taken in order to just to save the water and use it properly. So majorly it optimizes the efficiency of existing irrigation system, like drip irrigation and other form of irrigation. Sprinklers could be used so that least water could be used, and rehabilitation of system that has been run down, and also expand irrigation wherever feasible with special efforts to increase storage capacity. Okay, so these things were done to store or save our water. Next topic that is to be discussed over here is, and apart from this, there are some technical, or you can say key ideas which has been given by National Action Plan of Water. So that is the study on management of surface water resources, management and regulation of groundwater resources, upgrading storage structures so that fresh drainage water system, wastewater, conservation of waste, land development of desalinization. So lots of goals are given, and under National Water Mission, few goals are being optimized or identified. These goals are, you need to know about these goals. So comprehensive water database in public domain and assessment of impact of climate change water resources, promotion of citizen and state action of water conservation, augmentation and prevention, increase of water efficiency, and promotion of basin level integration. So these are just the goals which are being identified under National Water Mission. You can go through them. If you have any issues, you can always ask in the comment box, or you can read them in detail from the right sources. Next is secure Himalayan. So as we have studied about the importance of Himalayan in our geography and even in our environment also, we have seen that the Himalayan region consists huge amount of biodiversity. Since it stretches from northern part of our country, so it has got huge importance in our climate structure. Like it protects our country from getting the chilled breeze from the Russian or Siberian area, and it also acts as barrier, and lots of rainfall are there, and because of this huge rainfall, lots of biodiversity exists in Great Himalayan. And so we, to protect the biodiversity from being extinct and from being illegally overexploited, Secure Himalaya project was launched. So this is Government of India and this United Nations Development Program with support of Global Environment Facility. So 3 organizations are involved here. So these are implementing a new program to secure Himalayas. And what has to be secure? Securing livelihood, conservation, sustainable use and restoration of high-range Himalayan ecosystem, and to ensure conservation of locally and globally significant biodiversity, that is land and forest resources in the high Himalayan ecosystem, and that has to enhance living and livelihood of local communities. So overall, as I said, it was just to prevent or to improve the biodiversity and stop the overexploitation of biodiversity which is present in Himalayan region, and without affecting the livelihood of local people who are living in Himalayan region. Okay, talking about the key component of the Secure Himalaya. So the key objective of this Secure Himalaya is conservation of key biodiversity in their effective management to secure long-term ecosystem resilience, habitat connectivity and conservation of snow leopards. See, special species are also given over here, and few endangered species and their habitat. So I have been talking about this endangered species and habitat importance, since habitat are very important. In case of endangered species, as we know, we need house to live. Similarly, all kind of species have some or the other habitat to live in. So if you protect the habitat, ultimately the risk on extinction of those species would be saved. So for that very purpose, this habitat has to be protected, and there are some key biodiversity or key species which are living only in Himalayan region, but they are on the verge of extinction, and so to protect them, their habitat also has to be saved. Okay. And the sustainable community livelihood, again, now along with those species, certain human also live on those area, and their life is not affected, and they can use the resources and manage the Himalayan ecosystem. See what happened somewhere, whenever there is huge amount of biodiversity present in certain area, people start over exploiting it so that they can earn as much as profit as they can. So, and in order to prevent that, this Secure Himalayan was launched, because local people are also living that, so they will be aware that they should use the resources of Himalayan in proper manner, or you can sustainably, so that it has to be protected for future use also. Okay. And knowledge, advocacy, communication and information system was also established in Himalayan region, so that the problems could be communicated easily and the resolution could be given. Next is World Sparrow Day. We know about sparrow are the small birds, you can say. So this World Sparrow Day is being observed on 20th March. So what happened, these species of birds were extincting. So in order to protect them from getting extinct, Muhammad Dilawar, he was the person from Nature Forever Society. He started this World Sparrow Day so that they could aware everyone to protect this species from getting extinct. Okay. The first Sparrow Day, it was celebrated in 2010 in different part of world. It is not celebrated only in India, it is celebrated all around the world. Okay. And this Muhammad Dilawar, he was also called Heroes of Environment for his effort for saving this sparrows in 2008. Okay. And this idea, how did this idea came? So the idea, or you can say the theme behind celebrating this World Sparrow Day, see, most of the days which are celebrated regarding environment, they are just for conveying messages for conserving of the houses of sparrow, or you can say making us aware of condition of those species, and if we are capable of supporting or helping in any manner, we can easily do that. If we do not know that sparrows are at the verge of extinction, so we will not even try to save them. But if we know that there is some issues regarding them, then we will try, or we may give some effort to protect them. Okay. So this is all about World Sparrow Day. Next is land degradation neutrality. So what is happening? Agricultural farmers are using lots of pesticides, lots of insecticide, weedicide. So these are the chemical components, you can say, and these are being used so that productivity of crops can be used. I'm not saying that increasing productivity of crop is not a good idea, but again, in order to increase the productivity of those crop or productivity of that land, we are degrading that land gradually, and it is not impacting us in short term, but in long run it will impact us very drastically. For example, the farmer has a small piece of land, and if in order to increase the productivity of land, these chemical fertilizer or chemical pesticide insecticides are used in huge amount, this will gradually reduce the fertility of this piece of land, and after 10 to 15 years, what happen, this land will convert into a barren land or to a desert. Desert doesn't mean that a land just have all sand and all. Desert simply means if the land is receiving less rainfall or it is not fertile, that could be also called desert. So this land will convert into a barren land, and at the end this land will not produce any crops. So in long term, as we see, after 10 to 15 years, this farmer will not have anything on which he can grow crops, and ultimately his whole family will be in trouble. So for this very purpose, this is just a small example. There are many other aspects of this land degradation, but it was just to understand how land degradation affect us. So in order to protect this land degradation, this land degradation neutrality program was launched. Land degradation neutrality, by the name itself, it is clear that the land which is being degraded, it has to be turned to neutral stage or normal stage, and the lands which are on the process of degradation, that should be stopped. Okay, so let's see what is given over here. Desertification, it is the threatening of the livelihood of 1 billion people in 100 countries. So see how hugely it is impacting the lives of people. And along with this, there is lots of economical loss also. Some economists have caused that desertification and land degradation. It has been estimated a loss of 490 billion per year. This is the economic loss which people are bearing due to land degradation. And if sustainable methods are used, a profit of 1.4 trillion could be maintained per year. So you can see the difference. This is the loss, and if we just follow the sustainable method of producing crops and using the land properly, 1.4 trillion economic benefit could be gained. Okay, so under this land degradation neutrality, lots of policies and programs are being made so that the long suffered and the absence of overreaching goal quantitative and time bound target could be reached, and the land, they can be protected from getting degraded. If we talk about the aim, so it aims to balance the anticipated loss in the land based natural capital and associated ecosystem function and service with measure to produce alternative gains through approach such as land restoration and sustainable land management. So it is the same what I've already told you, that its major aim is to protect the land which is being degraded. So it has to be protect the land and use it properly. It has to be managed properly so that land could be restored and economic benefit could be gained. Okay, so this is all about land degradation. And one more important point over here is that this land degradation neutrality is directly related to few goals of sustainable development. How? Like eradicating poverty. How eradicating poverty is related to land degradation? See, if land degradation is neutralized or it is maintained, so crops, huge amount of crops could be grown and this poverty could be fought with. Ensuring food security, it is the same. Protecting the environment and using natural resources sustainability. Now again, if we have huge amount of land, productive land, so those land could convert into carbon dioxide consumer rather than producing greenhouse gases. Fine. Now land degradation, neutrality and climate change. So as I said, climate change, how climate changes. So we are suffering with global warming, and the main reason behind this global warming is the emission of greenhouse gases from various human activity, and land degradation is one of them. Although land degradation doesn't emit any kind of greenhouse gases, but it can help in consuming carbon dioxide gas, which is a major greenhouse gas, because we will have plants on the land, and since we have plants throughout the year on the land, it will consume carbon dioxide to prepare their food and produce oxygen, and this will ultimately reduce the greenhouse gas emission into the atmosphere and help in climate restoration. Okay, next is Forest Plus 2.0. So 2.0 means there would be some 1.0 also. So Forest Plus 2.0 simply means restoration of forest wherever deforestation has been done. So a US Agency for International Development and Indian Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, these are the two organizations who together launched Forest Plus 2.0 on September 25, 2019, and this is a 5-year program. Before this, in 2017, Forest Plus 2.1 was finished. That's why in 2019 5-year program of Forest Plus 2.0 was launched, and the main focus again, it was to develop tools and techniques to bolster ecosystem management and harnessing ecosystem services in forest landscape management. Now again, forest is huge habitat of many species. You know very well, lots of animal and plant species, that is flora and fauna species, live in forest, and it is a major part of ecosystem. They have their own ecosystem and they have their own food chain, lots of things are dependent on the forest only, and if this forest are being cut down, all those species living in that forest would entirely either exist, or the amount of the number of their species will reduce day by day. Fine. So that's why this Forest Plus 2 was launched. So special attention was given in by Sikkim, like introduction of solar heating system in Rampur and development of agroforestry in Hoshangabad. So these are the 3 places where importance. And under the pilot project, Gaya in Bihar, Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala and Medak in Telangana were also important concept, or you can say important places where emphasis were given under this project. If we talk about the target of Forest Plus 2 or 2.0, that is 1,20,000 hectares of land improved management, new inclusive economy worth 12 million and measurable $12 million actually, and measurable benefit accrued around 8 lakh household, and there were few incentive mechanism also which were given in ecosystem. Okay, and in order to achieve these target, lots of steps were given, like few tools and multiple service in forest system were given. Incentive based instruments for leveraging finance were also given, like payment. Over here a very good system has been organized. Like we know there are certain forest areas, and from those forest areas few rivers flow. If these forest areas are maintained, so the water which are flowing through this river, through this forest, would be of good quality and high amount. So the people who are living downstream, they should pay or give some money so to these forest community who are managing this forest, so that this could be managed properly. So this is an incentive system which was given by the people who are using the resources of those forests, are getting somehow benefit from those forests. Okay, now at the end of the video we'll see few important international events to protect environment. So as I said, most of the important events or days are just for making us aware about certain things which are important. So the very first day is Earth Day. Earth Day is celebrated worldwide on April 22, and it is coordinated globally by Earth Day Network. So there is a network which coordinates celebration of Earth Day. Okay, and in what happened in 1969 UNESCO conference in San Francisco, the peace activist John McClellan, he proposed a day in honor to Earth for the concept of peace, and right from there it was being celebrated on 21st March 1973. That was the first day of spring in northern hemisphere. Okay, so initially it was celebrated on 21st March 1970, but now it is being celebrated on April 22 across the world. Next is Earth Hour. So Earth Hour is nothing but saving, or you can say switching off all unnecessary electronic appliances for 1 hour. So it started from Sydney, Australia. They started turning off their non-essential light for 1 hour so that they can protect some of the energy resources that could be used further. Now if we see the engagement, so more than 7,000 cities across 172 countries follow this Earth Hour, and every year it begins in Sydney Opera House and Bridge in Australia. Okay, next is International Day of Biological Diversity. So as we know, we have huge amount of biodiversity on this earth. So in order to aware everyone about the existence of this biodiversity, International Day of Biological Diversity is celebrated on May 22, and it was just to increase the understanding and awareness of biodiversity. As I said, most of the day which are being celebrated would be to increase the awareness about those things. Next is World Environment Day. World Environment Day is celebrated on June 5 every year, and it was first held in 1974, and every year it has got some of the other theme. See, all the days which are being celebrated once a year, they will have some specific theme, and every time it keeps on changing. So the first World Environment Day was celebrated in 1974, and at that time the theme was only One Earth, and everyone it has a new theme. Next is International Day of Preservation of Ozone Layer. We know the importance of ozone layer. Like ozone layer is the layer which protect us from getting the ultraviolet rays. It just consume all the ultraviolet rays so that we do not get affected by the ultraviolet rays coming to the earth. Okay, so in 1974 in UN General Assembly they proclaimed 1716 to be celebrated as International Day for Preservation of Ozone Layer. Sorry. Next is International Day of Forest. So the International Day of Forest, it was celebrated first on March 21, and it was celebrated to raise awareness of importance of all type of forest, trees outside the forest for benefit of current and future generation. Okay, so this was the International Day of Forest. Next is World Habitat Day. So as I said, habitat is again very important in order to protect the species. Any species if you want to protect, so you just need to take care of the habitat. If habitat is protected, some or the other the species will increase. Okay, so this was celebrated every year on the first Monday of October throughout the world. Okay, and it was officially designated by United Nations and first celebrated in 1986. So that's all for today's video. So we are done with the recent development of environment part 1 and part 2. From next video we'll discuss new topic. So if you have any doubts regarding this or any topic till now, whatever we have discussed, please write down in the comment box. And thank you for watching. See you in next video. Till then, goodbye.